You're listening to the Silicon Valley Podcast.
On this week's episode of the Silicon Valley Podcast, we record at the Zendesk Relate conference in Las Vegas. We are sitting down with the CEO of Zendesk, Tom Eggemeier, where we talk about AI agents versus traditional AI, the role of AI in business growth, M&A strategy at Zendesk, AI's impact on competitive advantage, Zendesk's future vision, and much more. This interview is incredible, and I know all our entrepreneurs, investors, and leaders in tech out there are going to get so much from it. So, without further ado, let's start this week's episode of the Silicon Valley Podcast. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Silicon Valley Podcast with your host, Sean Flynn, who interviews famous entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, and leaders in tech. Learn their secrets and see tomorrow's world today.
All right, I'm super excited for this week's episode of the Silicon Valley Podcast. I'm here in Vegas with the CEO of Zendesk. Tom, before we dive into the difficult questions or the challenging ones.
I hope there's not too many difficult questions.
We'll see.
Right.
We're not going to give you just softballs.
All right,
This is going to be we're going to make you sweat a little bit.
Okay.
But can you give our audience a little bit of history of your career up into this point? And then also, what are we doing in Vegas right now?
So we are in Vegas. We're our customer event for Relate. We've got about 2,000 global customers here, press analysts, podcasters like yourself, Sean. And we're really excited to talk to our customers. It's one of the most enjoyable things about my job is getting to interact with customers, and see 2,000 of them at one time is fantastic. On my career, I've probably got an atypical background. I was a history major at university, and I actually got a law degree. And I loved law school, but I didn't enjoy practicing law. And I had a friend out in 1998, was a Tandem computer that was getting bought by Compaq Computer at the time. And he said, hey, there's a 0% unemployment rate. So even though you have no skills or capabilities, I bet I could get you a job out here if you want to make a career change. And so I made a career change, went to a number of companies along the way, including Alcatel-Lucent and Genesys, a software company. And I ultimately rose to president of Genesys. And after that, I went to a private equity firm called Primera as a partner for about 4 years. And Primera was an investor along with Hellman and Freeman in Genesys. And then we made a joint investment in Zendesk, and I came in as interim CEO. I never had a goal in my life to be a CEO, but I was really enjoying it. And hopefully I was making an impact on our customers, partners, shareholders, and employees. And so I stuck around.
So let's dive a little bit there, because for our listeners, your background going from history into tech, what was that interview like? And I'm also curious, from the investment side to the CEO side, what was that transition like?
So honestly, like I told you, in 1998, there was literally, I think in Silicon Valley was a 0% unemployment rates. I could put a string of sentences together. I told them I would work hard, and that was about the interview. I don't think that's the case anymore. Those are the go-go days in a lot of ways of Silicon Valley. And so you really was just having trouble attracting talent at different companies at the time. So that was an easy interview. And the second question you had was
the transition into the CEO role of Zendesk.
I was an operator from like 1998 to I think it was 2019 when I went to Primera. So I was an operator for 20 years. And then I went and was half a investing partner, half a operating partner at Primera. And so I think that was a really good experience, because what it allowed me to do was step away. Like I was an operator for 20 years. You're in the fight every day. And I was able to see a bunch of different CEOs, because in private equity, you're talking to a lot of companies. Okay. So you're doing management meetings with a lot of companies. You're on boards on a lot of companies, and you're seeing probably 50 different software companies a year to varying degrees. So I was able to self-reflect a little more on what I was doing poorly. What could I improve upon? And I learned a lot also just from how investors look at a software company. And so I thought the formation there for me was fantastic, but I missed operating and running companies. And so I got the opportunity to go back as interim CEO of Zendesk. I was really enjoying it. I think just a great company with great people, great customers. And I asked if I could stay on, and got lucky enough to stay on.
Now, was there any pushback from the partners then of going, wait, we're going to lose you on the investment side, or, hey, you're going to make our portfolio company spectacular?
I think Primera is just one of these great cultures for a private equity company. And by the way, Hellman and Freeman is the same way, one of our other co-investors, where They're really focused, they're growth oriented private investors. Okay. So they always rather see a point of growth versus a point of profitability, but they do want to see points go up for sure, whether it's profitability or growth. And they were really supportive. They are, again, a firm that really supports employees, their shareholders, companies, and they want to do the right thing. And they knew I was passionate about getting back to being an operator. I hope they were going to miss me on the investing side and giving maybe a software operator background and experience, because a lot of the people in firms and private equity, they grew up through investment banking and then they go into private equity. And so then maybe they had a summer internship. Maybe you worked a year or two at a company, but I think I brought a different expertise of having 20 years of operating experience, a different lens to investing, a different lens to being on boards of companies. And I hope they missed that, but they were really supportive of me going back to being an operator.
All right. So later on, we'll circle back on the whole mergers and acquisitions. Got a lot of questions there. But before that, let's talk a little bit about AI and AI agents and what's being, I guess, for our audience to lay a foundation. What are AI agents ones now, and how is it different than AI tools and chatbots that people might be more familiar with?
Yes, I'm old enough to remember like the 20-year history, or 20 years ago, maybe it was 15 years ago, where there was this huge promise of predictive analytics and machine learning. It was going to revolutionize the world. And it really never came to fruition in a scalable, systematic way. I think now with large language models, there's a couple things that are feeding AI agents. One is their reasoning capability. They're really able to be an autonomous reasoner on their own. Second, they're able to ingest an amazing amount of data very simply. You used to have to do a lot of work to get your own customized large language, not a customized predictive analytics or customized machine learning algorithm working. Whereas you can use the corpus of data, whether it's from Anthropic or OpenAI, and post-train those models really well. And so I think it's just a fundamental shift on the accuracy, the ease of use, the reasoning. And now you can do things like control them very well. And so I think it's just a step change in the technology. Give you an example that I think, Sean, you just mentioned. A chat bot used to be, people would, because when I was doing due diligence in private equity, hey, this is all AI based, okay? And you would go under the covers, and what you'd find out, it was basic old fashioned rules. And the rules aren't bad, but if X, do Y, if A, do B. And a lot of times decision trees, there might have been a little predictive analytics, a little machine learning sprinkled on the rules, but AI, when I looked at different companies, was 99% rules and 1% true artificial intelligence. And what's happening now is it's really 99% artificial intelligence and maybe some rules or controls or some governance to maybe constrain the models. If you're in a regulated industry, you don't want to get, if you're a financial services company, you don't want to get financial advice from your AI agent. And so I think we've made the shift from the promise of AI and really rules-based chatbots where they would go through a decision tree. It's almost, this might be too old school for your listeners, IVRs or interactive voice response. Think of, you call a company and press 1, press 2. Basically, that was the reasoning, the logic change that you had on old chatbots. And they couldn't reason. They couldn't be creative. They couldn't figure out in real time the issue or problem resolution. AI agents now, the accuracy level is just phenomenal. They are creative and they can reason. And so it's just a fundamental shift from old school chatbots to new AI agents. We're finding right now, we try to do some A/B testing, and we find that AI agents versus human agents are more accurate and get more customer satisfaction than their human equivalents in a lot of different use cases. I think it's part just latency. You might have to wait to get to a human. You can get to an AI agent immediately and they can solve your problem.
Let's dive a little bit more into that in the customer experience. Can you go a little bit broader, give a little bit more either examples, or how is that experience evolving more?
Sure. So I gave the bad world example of an old school chatbot that was really using a decision tree for logic. What's happening in AI agents right now is that they're able to solve a significant amount of customer issues, okay, and in a really quick, accurate way. Instead of waiting 5 minutes for a human agent on the phone, or instead of sending an email or chat or message or web form, if you do that right now, an AI agent, on the other hand, can do instantaneous response. Give you an example. One of our customers, they were on average responding to customers' password resets in 8 hours. So Usually when you're a consumer, you want to do a password reset. Okay. They wanted to do it. They had some higher security than just sending back an email to you and saying, change your password. And it took an 8 hours. And usually when a customer was in the moment, okay, they wanted to change their password immediately. They don't want to wait 8 hours. A use case like that, an AI agent can ask a bunch of security questions, detect anomalies, make sure that it's really you, Sean, that's asking for that password reset. And you can do that in a matter of seconds or in a matter of minutes rather than wait 8 minutes or 8 hours. That is a fundamentally better customer experience for you. And I think most consumers and most employees of businesses, they don't care if it's a human agent or an AI agent. They just want something resolved quickly, accurately, into their satisfaction. I think that's what AI agents zooming out in customer service. They're giving really accurate responses. They're absolutely solving problems, and they're solving complex problems now too. I gave the simplest of the simplest, a password reset, but our customers are using AI agents to fundamentally shift how they're interacting with their customers.
Okay, let's go from the customer side to now the employee side. How does that experience change for them?
So it's interesting. In customer service, there is absolutely huge retention problem for customer support human agents. And it makes sense. I don't know, Sean, if you've ever sent an email or a chat or called into a company just saying, hey, I really loved your service. Thanks for calling. Thanks for being there for me.
Tell by my reaction, I don't think it's...
No, I don't think I ever have. I actually try to really compliment the customer service agents via email or voice when I talk to them now, because they have one of the most stressful jobs in the world. Every single interaction usually they're having is someone that has an issue, that's really stressed, that's not happy. And so really difficult, high stress situation. The jobs don't pay that well. And you're expected to know an amazing amount of knowledge about a company very quickly. So there's really high turnover in customer service agents. And so what the hope is on the human agent side, AI agents, and you're doing a bunch of rote things, password resets. Hey, I've been holding for 2 hours to get my password reset on the phone. I couldn't transfer some money to my son who was waiting to go out to dinner or whatever. So there's a real stressful situation. What the promise is for human customer service agents right now is they're not going to do those rote repetitive tasks as many. That's going to be handled by an AI agent. So they're going to be more creative. They're going to be more editors. They're going to be using their brains more to go solve complex problems, which for most people is exciting. Second is that AI is going to give them suggested answers. Okay. And so their accuracy level is going to be better. They're going to have more personalization. If you're calling in or you're emailing in, Sean, they're going to know about your history, and it's going to be summarized, and they're going to be able to give you a better experience. They're going to know you live in the Bay Area. They're going to know that you run a world renowned Silicon Valley podcast. They're going to know that entrepreneurs, they might even know, hey, you just interviewed the CEO of this company that you're dealing with right now. And so all that contextual information, and that customer service agent, a lot of times, say it's an email or a chat or a message, is going to get a suggested response that's going to be very accurate. And so they're going to be more in this editor mode. They're going to be more accurate. They're going to be dealing with more complex problems. The hope is they're going to have a better job satisfaction, and there'll be less turnover, which with less turnover, they're going to solve customers' problems better because you're not churning them over at once every year or once every 2 years.
Okay, with the better experience for the employee, better experience for the customer. You just mentioned churn right there. Numbers would be better. How does AI agents, how can they be leveraged not only for the experience, but for growth in a company?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways AI agents can be leveraged for growth in a company. We launched today at Relate something called the resolution platform, because we say it's all about resolving customers' problems. Customers don't care about, hey, you eliminate 5 steps in your internal workflow, or there's something in customer service called call or written disposition notes. Once I interact with you, Sean, I've got to get on my keyboard and write what the interaction was about. Customers don't care about any of those. The customers only care about getting their issue in a timely manner. If you can do that, fantastic. If you can delight a customer, even better. And I think what AI agents are going to do, and I see it right now, what they're doing is they're able to fundamentally solve some of these simple problems, free up time to go focus on more growth initiatives. I'll give you an example. I was talking to one of our customers last night, a major delivery company, and I won't say what region around the world it's from. And What they're hoping, we've implemented AI agents with them that are starting to take a lot of the interactions and tasks. It's freeing up human beings to be more creative. And one of their ideas right now is instead of giving a $10, so I ordered a Chipotle or someone and I ordered hard shell tacos and I got soft shell tacos and I was frustrated with my dining experience. And you get a $10 or $15 credit right now. And you're here like, hey, this didn't solve my problem. Like, right, I didn't get the dining experience that I expected. With AI, what they're hoping to do is allow some of those human agents now to think outside the box and say, hey, first, can we go get the delivery solved? But would be great. We know Tom on Friday evenings usually orders Chipotle. And so should we send him a text message on Friday afternoon saying, hey, we know you got soft shell tacos last Friday instead of hard shell. Instead of giving you a credit, we gave you a credit, but we want to make sure that you're a loyal customer, Tom. And we're going to go give you a free hard shell Chipotle tacos. We're going to deliver at 6 p.m. Do you want to accept this? And so that's an idea human beings are starting to think about. You go implement that with AI agents, but you could start thinking about how you grow better, how you get a loyalty loop better with your customers. Right now, it's just like you're getting so much reactive feedback. Hey, I'll give the customer a $10 credit and we'll solve and we'll move on to the next problem. The hope, and I really think it's going to happen, is by AI agents solving a lot of the day-to-day problems, you're going to free up human creativity to exactly what you're talking about, Sean, is focused on growth, focused on customer loyalty. I think you're going to start seeing sales and service blur a little bit together in companies. And I think that's actually good because it's not just about, it's about resolving the customer's issue, number one, but then it's hitting the root cause, number two, and getting creative on how you can increase your customers' loyalty despite a speed bump they probably had contacting.
So right now I'm thinking of two questions. I'll let you decide which way to take the conversation. One is you're talking about all these agents, and I'm really curious about how companies should look at that return on investment for implementing these. Is there metrics they should track or that? But I'm also curious about a lot of our audience are early stage companies. They might be thinking, okay, I only have this much capital. How should I invest it, deploy it in the company? When should they even start thinking about, wait, maybe I should start implementing AI agents in our stack or what we're doing? So I'll let you decide which direction to go or take on both.
I'll take on the second one first, and then you remind me of the first one afterwards. I think AI agents are a fantastic way to go as a early stage company. And we have a program called the Zendesk Startups Program. I actually met with about once a month. We have 10, 15, 20 startup founders into our offices and we talk about just issues. It's not hopefully they're going to use Zendesk software, but just talk about issues. We do this all over the world. And we were talking about a similar point right now. And my recommendation right now is how advanced the technology is. Go use AI agents right now, that you can really build out a robust customer service operation with leading with AI agents. And again, it depends on the industry you're in, the vertical, how big you are, et cetera. But AI agents are so good right now that you can go build out use some of your capital. It can be a variable expense. One of the things we announced at Zendesk Relate was we're doing something called automated resolutions. And if a customer contacts one of our AI agents, we don't get paid unless we solve that customer's problem. And so right now, a lot of people are getting charged $2 per interaction. So if a customer goes to a company and an AI agent deals with them, even if they don't solve the problem, they get charged $2. We're giving you a variable for a founder. They're worried about the bottom line right now. And I totally get it. It used to be all about growth. Now it's about profitable and durable growth, right? For founders, we're only going to charge you for our AI agents if we solve a problem. It's such a no lose situation for, I would say, for a founder right now. You were in the past hiring a bunch of human agents, okay? Give AI agents a chance. If they solve the problem, they're going to solve it for 1/5 or 1/10 the cost of a human agent. And we only get paid at Zendesk if we actually solve the problem with you.
All right. Now, the other part of that question was return on investment.
Yeah, we go do business cases. And so whether you're buying from Zendesk, an AI agent, or a competitor or someone else, I really think there's a really fundamental good business case here. And there's going to be a fundamental question, though, is do you invest your savings back to your earlier point in growth? Do you invest in your savings to go enhance your customer's experience, or do you put it to the bottom line? So what we see right now is, again, you can get 1/5, 1/10 of the cost by deploying an AI agent versus a human agent. And we see people able to automate anywhere between 20 and 80% of their interactions. That sounds like a huge number, 20 to 80%, but it really depends on the use cases, the maturity of the company. And so we go in and I say 20 to 80%, people say it's huge. Variability, is it 80 or is it 20%? And I say, hey, give us 2 or 3 days. We're going to go look at your voice calls, your ticket interactions, your customer interactions, and we'll have within a 10% guidance how much we can go automate. With how much we can go automate, we can say, a lot of times companies are saying, I'm going to hire less people going forward, quite frankly. They're going to say, hey, I'm going to automate a lot of things. I'm going to take that cost savings and I'm going to go hire less people in customer service, or I'm going to free up their time and I'm going to do some of these creative things, or I'm going to invest it into more product development to go have a better product market fit. And so there is really clear ROI from a cost savings, but I think you've been asking the right questions. I think that's kind of level one. You really want to go invest it into growth, better loyalty loop, better customer satisfaction, et cetera. The second better metric that we look at a lot of times is customer satisfaction. Whether people do CSAT, it's a 5-point score, net promoter score, whatever their customer service metric is.
Just for everyone, CSAT, customer
satisfaction. Yeah. Customer satisfaction, CSAT, usually 1 to 5, 5 being the highest, one being the lowest. NPS, net promoter score, is how likely are you to recommend this company's goods or services based on your experience. If you get a 9 or 10, it's a promoter, you get plus 1 point. I think it's, and I should know the formula, but if you get 1 through 6, it's a negative 1 point. And if you get a 7 to 8, you're in the middle. So there's detractors, passives, and promoters. And then you look at the overall score. So that's how a lot of companies look at their customer satisfaction. They want as many promoters as possible and move detractors to passive or promoters. So you can measure also, are you getting the same, worse, or better from AI agents versus human agents? So it's not just about cost. It's not just about driving the bottom line or the top line. It's also, are your customers satisfied? And what we're finding right now for most tasks, people are just as satisfied or more satisfied when they do the latest generation of AI agents.
Okay, now one thing you mentioned quite a bit, growth. Now in the past, the last few years, Zendesk has made a couple of acquisitions. Can you talk about that acquisition strategy? What's the Zendesk playbook?
I think one of the things private equity does pretty well is encourages acquisitions. So there's always a make-buy partner decision at any company, any stage of a company. And we see great innovation, great foundations from entrepreneurs out there. They're thinking creatively, they're thinking outside the box. And the danger when you're at a bigger company, we're about $2 billion of revenue, not quite, but pretty close, is that you get a little stale, you get a little too internal looking. And so we just have a general philosophy at Zendesk, but I think private equity does a good job at this, is can you bring other companies in where you're going to have more entrepreneurs, more people that are going to think revolution rather than evolution and something like customer service, more people that are going to have just a more of a quick, agile way of working, okay, rather than a big company business process. Even though we're about 2 billion, 5,500 employees, we don't think of ourselves as big, but sometimes we go too slow for our customers. And so we just have a general philosophy that we can make, buy, or partner, but we're going to want to make sure that we try to be on the leading edge of different technology revolutions. And we've bought 4 companies or 3 companies, and we have a definitive agreement to buy a 4th company pending regulatory approval.
Leaving that one out, talking about the other 3, what lessons were learned there, or why were those strategic acquisitions made?
So strategic acquisitions were made that we saw the world going to AI and we were not moving fast enough organically. It's not because the people weren't great on the teams. It's just, we saw a bunch of companies out in the marketplace. They were moving quicker towards AI. They had a better AI architecture, quite frankly, because they were founded the last years versus a decade or 15 years ago. And right before my time, we acquired a company called Cleverly in Lisbon, Portugal. And Cleverly,
that was to acquire to visit Lisbon, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're going to like the list of the cities that we acquire companies in. They're great cities to visit, but Lisbon, Portugal, great place to visit for your listeners that haven't visited there. And Lisbon, Portugal, and they are our Copilot. They're the basis for our Copilot, human Copilot product, AI product. We acquired a company called Ultimate in Berlin, Germany, and they are the basis for our AI agent product. We acquired a company called Klaus in Tallinn, Estonia. And they are Sean's laughing for all the podcaster listeners here. He's got a big smile across his face.
I'm just looking or thinking right now, the thesis of companies is, okay, where is it founded so I can go visit? And if you're not in one of these major prime cities, maybe you're not looked at anymore.
But it's not, I'll get back to our kind of M&A strategy, but it's not as glamorous as this. I was in Berlin visiting our team recently. We have a R&D site in Krakow, Poland, and the best way to get there was a 7-hour train ride. So I went from Berlin to Krakow on a 7-hour train ride, and then I went to Tallinn, and the only way to get to Tallinn was to go through Warsaw and then to Tallinn, Estonia. So it sounds great in theory. It was a trains, planes, and automobiles to go from Berlin to Krakow to Tallinn in a couple of days.
Hopefully it was during the summer when you did that.
It was a couple of months ago. So it was the winter, but it was still beautiful and nice, but maybe not quite as nice as in the summer.
So going back to the companies, for our listeners that are a lot of entrepreneurs, they one day, their exit most likely would be to get acquired.
Sure.
How should they position themselves so they could even be, how do I say this, on the radar of a company like Zendesk?
So first, there's got to be a strategic fit. Okay. And so we recognize that we were not doing as well organically as we wanted in Copilot, AI agents, and in quality assurance. There's another company called TimeShift. I want to give a shout out to the TimeShift team as well, but I'll just stick to those three. So strategic relevance is number one. Number two is, I think, the quality of the people. And we've been able to retain 97 or 98% of the employees from these acquisitions. And I tell you, Sean, it was great leadership on the Zendesk side, but I think it's a real good cultural fit on the company side, really strong local leadership in Lisbon, Berlin, Tallinn, and then with TimeShift. And that is really important for us. And this might be a little different between Silicon Valley and Europe, but for us is we're buying the product for sure, but we're also buying the talent on the team because we want to go harness that innovation, that agile experience, that revolution, that think outside the box. I think what the founders are getting, and they would tell you if they were here, they are here, but if they were at the podcast, is they're able to get to Zendesk 100,000 customers. And there's nothing better talking to founders than seeing their product used at a wide scale. And for instance, Ultimate in Berlin had a couple hundred customers from an AI agent perspective between our advanced AI agent solution and our essential AI agent solution. We have two tiers. We're over 10,000 AI agent customers at the end of 2024, and we acquired them at the beginning of the year. So we were able to massively explode their relevance with customers. And so that was great for them. I think what founders are also going to have to understand, though, is they're going to have to do some things. We have really rigorous security policies. And not that they didn't at these companies, but they had to understand there is going to be in their mind some bureaucracy. There is going to be some more slowness of decision making, but they get the great distribution arm. So if I were a founder, what's my strategic relevance? Am I going to play in a space where a company is going to have a little more challenge to go develop something organically? Do I have great product market fit? We look at, do you have a good architecture? Okay. So latest and greatest for us, agentic AI architecture, you were architected around that versus quote, an AI company that we talked about earlier that was really rules-based 10 years ago. And do you have a good cultural fit? And do we think we're going to be able to retain the employees? And of course, there's the basics. Are you in a growing market? AI agents, Copilot, quality assurance, massive TAMs, massive growing market. And we thought we could take these companies through our distribution, our sales and marketing, and our partner organization and really explode their growth.
You mentioned 10,000 customers. And I'm curious, when the customers adopt the technology, are they thinking, you mentioned also the customer experience, the employee experience, the potential for growth. Is there also a level of this technology can create a moat around what we're doing and actually protect the company? I'm trying to think of the whole, Charlie Munger and Berkshire. We want to invest in a company with a moat. Does AI agents help that company create that moat?
I think customer service is a differentiator. If your listeners think about the brands they really interact with, that it would be hard not to survive on. I think customer service is one of the key ways. When you have a problem, are you able to get quick, fantastic service from a company? I do think that's usually, someone goes to business school, it's one of the three things, your operating model on customer service. I wouldn't say it's just AI agents, but it's how you approach your customers, their loyalty loop, you can absolutely get a moat on differentiating yourself from customer service. And we see that one of the things we do with our companies is we have an anonymized data set from 100,000 customers. And there are direct correlations between people that have higher customer satisfaction, that engage with their customers more frequently, engage with their customers more quickly, and growth on the revenue side. And so I do think, looping back to your question about would you invest capital in this, I think that increases your loyalty loop. The more sticky you are with your customers, the higher growth you're going to get. So I think customer service can be one of those.
I do want to steer the conversation a little bit to some of the announcements that were made at this conference. But before even there, your career has taken many different paths. How have you been able to continually grow as a CEO? For our listeners out there that they'll get around to funding and then they get that pressure to grow into that company going from 5 employees to 10 to 50 to 200. Through your career, it sounds like you've been at every step, and now Zendesk is such a massive behemoth.
So first, I'd say be humble and be acquisitive. I am the first to say I surround myself with people that are a lot better than me, smarter, that they're very inquisitive. And so surround yourself with a great team, be humble and be very inquisitive of what's going on. And don't have imposter syndrome. I still have it now, but I'm like, wow, how lucky am I to be at a $2 billion company being the CEO? And am I qualified for it? Am I doing a good enough job? And so I think it's okay to have those self-doubts that you're experiencing in a situation that you might not know all the answers to, but likely you don't know all the answers. You have to be an expert on how to deal with investors one day, the next day, how to get your message out to the marketplace, the Silicon Valley influencers. The next day, how do you interact with the customer? The next day, you need to understand where agentic AI is going to go in 3 years, where you see stuff like DeepSeek and it changes every 2 weeks what's going on. So surround yourself with great people, be inquisitive and humble, and realize you're not going to know all the answers, and that's okay. And my observation, CEOs or any executive that think they know all the answers or come off that, there's probably a false sense of confidence there. And the other thing I'd say is just get mentors to your CEOs. I've had a lot of great mentors in my life that I didn't probably realize it at the time, what they were giving me on advice. And I try to pay that forward to other people.
Now, are these mentors the board, the investors, colleagues, outside CEO coach? Who are these mentors?
All the above. There's a couple of things. I joined a Silicon Valley CEO forum. There's about 20 to 25 CEOs get together once a quarter. And I learned so much from them and go out to lunches with them and pick their brains. Second, it's informal, but there's a couple of former CEOs that ran large companies that I'll go grab a coffee or lunch with and say, hey, I'm struggling with X, Y, or Z, and how would you think through this? And then I rely on our board and even the people that work for me. You can learn a lot. I think that's the key thing, I think, to being a successful CEO is to continue to be inquisitive, being learning, and realize you don't have all the answers. And again, I've been lucky in my life to have had a lot of people invest in me. I tell the CEOs of founders, if you can invest in employees and pay it forward as well, I think that's really important.
Tom, now I'm really curious. Can we dive a little bit deeper into the conference here in Vegas and some of the announcements that have been made, some of the new releases that Zendesk is talking about to the audience that's here?
So, Sean, we made a bunch of AI announcements. I'm going to start with some of the AI announcements adjacencies because we've talked about AI so much. One, we launched an employee service product. We actually have 17,000 customers around the world in over 136 countries that are using the horizontal Zendesk application for employee service. What's employee service? How do you go onboard an employee? You might have a compliance issue. How do you do ITSM, software and hardware asset management and tracking? And so we launched an employee service product where people have in the past used our horizontal product and have made it work for employee service. But we launched a specific dedicated service product that's based on the Zendesk resolution platform that I'll talk about in a second. The Zendesk CCaaS or contact center as a service product. This is going to be through a company called Local Measure that we have a definitive agreement to acquire, pending regulatory approval in the US and Australia. It's an Australian-based company and other places around the world. They're built on Amazon Connect, and we're actually buying and partnering with Amazon Connect. And so one of our big announcements here is we're going to deepen the relationship with Amazon Connect. and AWS as a whole. We think it's just an amazing partnership, and it's a really important partnership. Why it's important for our customers is they're looking for more and more one company to work with across customer service. They don't see any difference between email, chat, messaging, AI agents, voice bots. They want all that to come together, deliver a great customer experience for their customers or for their employees. And what we're seeing is companies in the past might have said, hey, I want best of breed and all these things. They really just want one company to go solve this for them. Of course, they want best of breed technologies through all the attributes. Third, we made just a ton of AI announcements this week. I'll maybe just to highlight a couple of them, but I could go into a lot of detail on these. One is we are the largest knowledge base help center company in the world. We have over 35,000 companies that use Zendesk knowledge bases to serve their customers from a self-service perspective. So think of for your readers, not your readers, think of for your podcast listeners, if you go to a help center, you used to get 10 blue links. How do I go process a return? You get 10 blue links. You got to go read an article. It took a lot of time on the consumer to go do it. What we've put is generative search into this. So Sean, if you said, how do I do a return? We will grab information from that knowledge base and give you a specific answer to your question. This is how you go process a return. These are the 5 steps. And so we're doing that for free as part of our core product. And why we're doing that is we want to democratize AI for all companies. And again, 35,000 out of our 100,000 customers use our knowledge base. This is a way to step them into the AI world in a really measured way. We also made a bunch of announcements about our AI agents program. We have now an essential AI agents program where you can have a great bot experience. It's part of your package and you get free automated resolutions as part of that. We had some great leaps forward in our generative AI bot or advanced AI agent that's built on that ultimate technology from Berlin, Germany. By the way, that was Finnish co-founders who moved to Berlin as part of Ultimate. It's a great, again, immigrant and innovation story there. But with their advanced AI, it's really a reasoning engine now. I'm a history major, as we talked about earlier, with a law degree, and I can actually, just through voice prompts, figure out how to go make an AI agent work. I can make it effective. I can see what it's going behind the scenes. And part of that announcement with AI agents is we really have been explicit with our customers that there's this, I call it a tension between creativity and agency on one side and control on the other side. And there's almost a continuum here. We're giving control to our customers on how much they want to let the bot do reasoning for how much they want to constrain that. Shashi, our president of engineering AI and product, I think has a good metaphor for this. An AI agent is like a university intern or a university recent grad. You want to go train them. You want to give them skills and capabilities. They're really enthusiastic. You want to motivate them. On the other hand, if someone came in and had a $10 or $20 million decision for your company, you probably wouldn't let the recent college grad or the university intern make that decision. And we think one of the differentiators with Zendesk is you're able to control the permissions. You're able to control if it's a financial services bot that they can't give financial services advice because it's a regulated industry, but they still have that creativity from a reasoning engine. And finally, wrapping this all together, we launched what we're calling the Zendesk Resolution Platform because AI agents, human agents need to work together in a system with things like knowledge management, help centers, for voice channel, for messaging channel, all together focused on one thing, solving a customer's problem. The customers don't care what you're doing in the background on your internal operations. They just want their problem resolved. And so all of Zendesk is about this resolution platform. And we talked about the pricing model a little earlier. We're only going to get paid if we solve your customer's problem with you. We're not going to get paid just for having an interaction.
With the pace of how everything's moving, and I know we only got a few minutes before we have to wrap up, how do you see this whole industry? How do you see everything evolving over the next 5 years?
We really think this is going to be the second major revolution in customer service. We have a strong point of view that Mikkel, the founder of Zendesk, and his co-founders ushered in the first revolution in customer service, where they democratized it. They made it easy for value. They gave companies a huge leap forward in how to do customer service and help centers. We think there's just going to be fundamental shifts in the next couple of years. Over the next 5 years, we think 100% of interactions, when you're interacting with a customer service group from a company will be AI related, meaning it's either going to be an AI agent you're going to talk to or work with, or you're going to be working with a human agent who's using AI to make them better and more efficient. And we think 80% of interactions within the next 5 years are actually going to be completely automated, and AI agent's going to solve them. And furthermore, we think in the next couple of years, Sean, you and I are going to have our own co-pilot, our own AI agent that is going to be interacting with the company's AI agent. And the majority within 5 years of interactions between you, a consumer, and a company are going to be your co-pilot, your AI agent with the company's AI agent. So those are some like big changes coming to customer service for the next 5 years.
It's going to be a very handsome co-pilot. And Tom, if anyone wants to learn more about Zendesk, yourself, what's the best way to go about doing it?
Come to zendesk.com or shoot me an email. It's tom.eggemeier@zendesk.com. I'm going to spell that last name for you because it's not an easy one. So it's EGGEMEIER at zendesk.com. So first name dot last name at zendesk.com. I love to talk, particularly to entrepreneurs and founders. I learn so much from them. They're absolutely inspiring and happy to have discussions with your listeners to your podcast, Sean.
Fantastic. We'll have that email in the show notes. And for our audience out there, I'm not the host of the Silicon Valley podcast. I'm an investment banker focused on mergers, acquisitions, and growth capital. Connect with me on LinkedIn. And for our audience, don't forget to go to our website, thesiliconvalleypodcast.com, to check out our archives where we've interviewed some incredible people. And with that, Tom, I got to thank you for taking time on this week's episode of the Silicon Valley Podcast.
Thanks, Sean, for coming out to Las Vegas. We were talking earlier. I just hope you don't get stuck in an elevator. For your listeners out there,
you want to share the story?
Yeah, I'm going to share the story. We were going to a customer meeting, actually a customer dinner for a couple hundred of our European and Asian customers, and 12 of us got in an elevator. Okay. And we were running late. All of a sudden we move up, it felt like about a half a floor, and the whole power goes out in the elevator. Now, lucky it is not too hot in Las Vegas now. I think it's about 80 degrees maybe Fahrenheit, which is 25 degrees Celsius, 27 degrees Celsius.
You can do the conversion.
I lived in France for 4 or 5 years. So maybe it's 27 degrees Celsius, 80 degrees Fahrenheit, but it started to get really hot and the call button was not working for the firefighters. We were lucky one of us had bars on our cell phone. So someone was able to call the firefighters. They got there in 45 minutes. They had to pry the door open. But it was a really interesting experience. And so I was wondering, though, if this happened in July when it was 100 degrees and 40 degrees Celsius, it probably would have been a different experience stuck in a small elevator with 12 people. So I'm glad I made your podcast here today, and I'm not stuck in an elevator still.
Question for you. What was more stressful, the stuck in the elevator or this interview?
Sean, I think you want me to tell you it was the interview, but absolutely it was stuck in the elevator because I had zero control of the outcome. Zero control. The firefighters, I should give a shout out to the Clark County and Las Vegas firefighters from precinct house number 18, fire station number 18. We sent them some barbecue last night and some beers. I don't think they can take the beers at the fire station for helping us out. They were fantastic.
And any last words for our audience? Closing remark.
I think if you're a founder, if you're an entrepreneur, a key part of your growth is going to be creating this loyalty loop with your customers. More and more customer service and sales are going to blur together, and giving a fantastic customer experience in a really timely manner in a cost-effective way for you founders out there is going to really fuel your growth. We hope you're going to partner with Zendesk in that customer service journey, but I'd really take a hard look at not just product market fit, not just your sales, but how you're interacting with your customers every day.
All right. We'll leave it at that. Tom, once again, thank you for being on this week's episode of the Silicon Valley Podcast.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you for listening to the Silicon Valley Podcast. To access our resources, visit us at thesiliconvalleypodcast.com and follow our host on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Sean Flynn SV. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any decisions, consult a professional.